Back to order, please. I need a motion to return to open session.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
We're now back in open session. I need a motion to certify that closed session. We only discussed the items that were in the enabling motion and only those items that are in accordance with the Freedom of Information Act and those items that are in accordance with the Code of Virginia.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Aye.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. We have two motions out of closed session. The first motion is related to a student matter.
Make a motion that we expel student A from Montgomery County Schools.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Aye.
Yes.
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 Yes. The second motion out of closed session is related to an employee matter.
I would like to make a motion to amend the superintendent's contract to add a 3.5% pay increase effective July 1st, 2013.
Second.
Roll call, please. Okay. I will. I will.
Yes.
I did. Aye.
Yes.
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 Yes. And that concludes all the motions out of closed session. The next item on our agenda is honors, awards, and recognition. And at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Blackburn.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. It's my distinct pleasure this afternoon to be able to have the opportunity to recognize some long-term Montgomery County Public Schools employees and some great contributors to public education. I'm going to go to the podium and make some comments about these folks. First, I'd like for our board and our audience this evening to know that the four people we're going to be recognizing this evening have a cumulative total of 119 years of service to public education, which is pretty amazing, especially when you see how young they look. So, and of those 119 years of service to public education, 104 of them were directly to the communities, the students, the families, the employees of Montgomery County Public Schools. I'm going to start with Mr. Walt Shannon this evening. Walt, come on up.
Come on up, Walt.
I'm going to have him come and stand by me for just a minute because I want to say a few words about him. He gets to be silent this time, and I get to talk. How about that? So my staff is laughing. They understand that very well. Walt has a total of 21 years of service to education, and of those 21, 12 were in Montgomery County Public Schools. He is a veteran of the United States Army from 1969 to 1989, and then came back and joined first Pulaski County Schools, and he was with them for about 10 years, and then he saw the light. And he came on over to the Wright School system, and he's been working with Montgomery County Public Schools ever since. He has served as the business manager for Montgomery County Public Schools, and most recently, Director of Finance, and then that to Assistant Superintendent for Operations, and served a stint as the Interim Superintendent for Montgomery County Public Schools. I consider Walt a great contributor to our school system. He has been very supportive of my tenure in Montgomery County Public Schools and has done everything that he could do to keep us moving in the right direction through some of the toughest budget times that any public school system has ever seen. So my hat's off to Walt Shannon. Next, we have Mr. Nelson Simpkins. And Mr. Simpkins has given 39 years to public education, all 39 of them being right here in Montgomery County Public Schools. Not only has he served this community, but he's a product of this community, having attended Auburn High School, having graduated from Virginia Tech, and having earned his master's degree at Radford. He liked to keep it all right in the community. It's been my pleasure to work with Nelson. He comes by my office door sometimes, and I look at him and I say, you know, you never know what's going to happen in secondary schools. And so Nelson and I have been involved in a few adventures relating to some of the things that go on in our secondary schools. He is a lover of young folks and such an advocate for our high school students, and has been a coach and a mentor, assistant principal, and ends his career with Montgomery County Public Schools as the director of secondary education. And it is indeed a great pleasure to congratulate Mr. Simpkins on his retirement from Montgomery County Public Schools. Come on down, Nelson. Yes. I don't know.
I was just thinking on the way here tonight, after 25 years of introducing Seniors of the Month at the second board meeting, it's only poetic justice to be one of the 4 Seniors of the Month recognized tonight. So thank you.
And we won't say who's the most senior, okay? That's a military secret. Next, breaks my heart, but Lisa Radford, my administrative assistant, has decided that she needs to go sit on the park bench by her pond for a while. Lisa has served in public education for 25 years, all 25 of which have been in Montgomery County Public Schools. And prior to working with Montgomery County Public Schools, Lisa did a little stint with the District Court Services, with the town of Blacksburg, the County Attorney's Office, the Montgomery County Economic Development Director, but she found her spot. And boy, is she good at it. She's an amazing, amazing contributor to our school division. Everyone knows Lisa. She has an uncanny ability to get people to say yes. I hear her on the phone. I mean, she could, charm the birds out of the trees just about. She worked 3 years in HR before she moved down the hallway to be the administrative assistant to the superintendent. And she is known to say that the person who hired her never regretted his decision. Now, here's what she told me, though. When I came on board, she said, "Okay, Missy, you're number 7. And I am not breaking in another superintendent." And I thought that meant she was going to stay till I left, until she walked into my office this April and said, "I've decided I'm going to leave." So, Lisa, come on down. I know, but I had to, spice it up a little bit. Let me tell you, it's scary, the institutional memory that's walking out the door with this group. Think about it. 119 years of education lore and 109 years of Montgomery County education history. Pretty amazing. And last but certainly not least, the only person I know who just has one name, Rochelle. Rochelle is just a spark of light wherever you see her and whatever she does. And she has worked in public education for 34 years, 28 of which have been in Montgomery County Public Schools. She's held so many different jobs that they wouldn't fit on the plaque. So we had to kind of, do some combination with them. She has been a Chapter 1 reading teacher, a reading teacher at the high school, a Chapter 1 reading recovery teacher, a Title I reading teacher, a supervisor of Title I and remedial reading, and a supervisor of Title I media specialists, librarians, and, that last item on the job description, all other duties as assigned. Rochelle, you can tell from all these titles, has a wonderful love for reading, and she is just an amazing inspiration to our reading teachers and our media specialists throughout the county. So, Rochelle, I don't know what we're going to do without you. She gets there at 6 a.m. She opens the doors. Come on down, Rochelle. And so, with the loss of 109 years of Montgomery County history, I'm sure I'm going to get by with doing a lot of stuff because there won't be anybody who can tell you that that's not the way it used to be done. Thank you so much. What a team this group is, and it's been my pleasure to have an opportunity to get to know them. Thank you.
We're going to take a 5-minute break so that we can speak with our honored guests.
Next item on our agenda is public address. This is where the board sets aside 30 minutes with a maximum of 3 minutes per citizen to address the board on items of educational interest. At this time, we have 4 people who have signed up in advance, and I will begin to call their names. When you come to the podium, if you would please state your name and address as you begin. The first person signed up is Kathy Duncan.
I have to bring my notes or I get a little fuddled here. My name is Kathy Duncan. I live at 420 Majestic Drive here in Christiansburg. We understand more now about the diversity of individuals. We also understand more than ever that these are not choices that individuals make, but it is the way that they come into our world. As educators, it is our job to help each individual on their journey of realizing who they are and to help them become the best person they can be. Until our society understands the importance of each individual, especially if they are part of a sometimes maligned minority, it is our job to take the lead and include statements to attempt to make sure that these groups are protected and respected. It can be an uncomfortable process for some, but a very necessary one to make sure that our lesbian, our gay, our bisexual, and our transgendered brothers and sisters are supported. Please do not leave out the T for transgendered in this process. To do so would be to leave out the minority of a minority, and these individuals certainly deserve the same protection as lesbians, gays, and bisexuals. Thus, I ask you to also include gender identity with sexual orientation so that more will be included in this umbrella of protection. LGBT individuals have always been a part of our Montgomery County family, giving their very best every day, and it is time to recognize them, embrace them, and make sure they have the protection they deserve. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. The next person signed up is Michael Sutphin.
Mr. Chair, Superintendent, members of the school board, thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. My name is Michael Sutphin, and I live at 611 Progress Street in Blacksburg, Virginia. And I'm also on the board of directors for Equality Virginia, the state's largest LGBT organization. Protecting Virginians from workplace discrimination has been a passion of mine for years. Although I have never personally faced such discrimination, I have spoken with many who have. And I have spent years working with Equality Virginia to pass fully inclusive workplace discrimination laws for all public employees in Virginia, including teachers. Many do not realize that in Virginia, you can be fired or not hired for being lesbian, gay, bisexual, or transgender. It doesn't matter whether you work for a public or private sector business or for a large or small business. Virginia does not safeguard or does not prevent workplace discrimination against LGBT employees. That's why we must have policies that safeguard employees against discrimination and harassment based on their sexual orientation and their gender identity. Despite not having protections under state law, employees need to know when they come to work in the morning that they are in a welcoming environment that will treat them with fairness and respect. This includes Montgomery County teachers and staff. Please, I urge you to approve these simple measures against discrimination and harassment. I would also ask that you include both sexual orientation and gender identity in your equal opportunity statement. While the proposed language I saw earlier includes gay, lesbian, and bisexual employees, it does not do the same for transgender ones. Earlier this year, your colleagues on the Board of Supervisors unanimously passed a resolution in favor of extending the state's employment policies, and they are not alone. 87% of Virginians agree that gay and lesbian employees have the right to be protected from workplace discrimination, and 90% say they should have the right to work for the government. Of Virginia's 25 largest private employers, 20 have non-discrimination policies that include sexual orientation, and 15 have policies that include both sexual orientation and gender identity. This policy change would send a message to Montgomery County's teachers that they have the same rights working for you that they would have in the private sector. It would also send a message to the county's children that our community values fairness and equality. Please do the right thing and vote in favor of these measures. And again, I thank you for your time and consideration in this matter.
Thank you. The next person signed up is Matt Gabriel.
Thank you, Chairman Jones, Ms. Blackburn, and board members. My name is Matt Gabriel. I live on Woodbine Drive in Blacksburg, Virginia. I'm also on the Board of Supervisors. I represent District G. First of all, let me say it's a little weird to be on this side of the podium for a change.
And you have 3 minutes.
And I have 3 minutes, I know, and I'm wasting them right now. Anyway, I don't have a very long statement. I just wanted to say thank you for considering these changes, these policy changes, and also the resolution of support to encourage our state legislature to perhaps change and extend their protections to gay, lesbian, and transgender, bisexual and transgender individuals. I was proud in that day in February when our board unanimously supported the resolution that I introduced, and I'm very happy that the MCEA and Ms. Pleasant introduced this last meeting and that you are taking it up so promptly and quickly, and I urge you to support the passage of both policy changes today. Thank you.
Thank you. The next person signed up is Sally Kopakowski. I tried.
Very good, you got it right on.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, well, my name is Sally Kopakowski. I live at 715 Kentwood Drive in Blacksburg. I'm a mom, and my children went through the Montgomery County school system, and I'm here in support of the LGBTQ community, but in particular, I'm here tonight to read a statement from a young man, a young transgender man named Eli Grossman. He couldn't be here tonight because he had work commitments, but he wishes he could be here in person, but instead of that, I'm going to read his statement. I want to thank you for taking the first step towards inclusivity in the workplace for Montgomery County Schools by considering including sexual orientation in your equal employment opportunity statement. While this is a fantastic first step, I am asking you to include the whole LGBTQ community by adding gender identity or gender expression to the statement. As an out transgender man, I am incredibly fortunate to be able to say I've only had positive reactions to my gender identity and expression. I am proud of my co-workers for handling my transition from female to male with ease. They became my cheerleaders as they saw changes from hormones and as I prepared for surgery. Unfortunately, most transgender individual stories are quite different. For transgender people who are able to find a job, 90% experience harassment, mistreatment, or discrimination in the workplace. 40% of transgender individuals are unemployed largely because 34 states, including Virginia, do not protect transgender people from discrimination. There are no federal protections against workplace discrimination. While I hope that Montgomery County Public Schools does not discriminate against any potential employee for any reason, adding sexual orientation and gender identity to the Equal Employment Opportunity Statement would make a powerful statement of acceptance. How can we protect all our youth in a school system from discrimination, harassment, or bullying if we don't protect our faculty and staff? 90% of transgender youth report feeling unsafe at school because of their gender expression. 78% report having been verbally harassed. 55% have been physically attacked. Only 11% of transgender students report that school staff intervened when hearing either homophobic remarks or negative remarks from someone's gender expression. Those national statistics illustrate that there is no wonder why more...
Ms. Kapikowski, your time is up.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you very much. That concludes all who have signed up at this time. If there's anyone else that would like to address the board at this time, if you would please step forward, state your name and address.
Every time I touch that, it yells at me. Good evening, Chairman Jones, members of the board, and Ms. Blackburn. I am Kelly Pleasant, president of the MCP of Montgomery County Education Association, and I reside at 2737 Old Fort Road in Blacksburg. At the June 4th board meeting, I spoke on behalf of the MCEA to ask that you review your equal opportunity and your sexual harassment policies. Ideally, it would be great if these policies could just simply state that discrimination will not be allowed in any form or tolerated for any reason. That the only indicator for hiring or retaining a job would be job skills, qualifications, and job performance. Since the current policy, however, lists specific areas where discrimination cannot occur, it leads to some employee groups feeling neither included nor protected. The MCEA appreciates that you have chosen to investigate and begin the discussion of the equal opportunity policy of Montgomery County Public Schools. The addition of sexual orientation and veteran status and pregnancy are important to ensuring that all employees feel welcome, safe, and therefore feel valued in their work environment. Thank you in advance for your careful consideration of these changes and for your future consideration of similar changes to the sexual harassment policy. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to address the board at this time? If so, please step forward and state your name and address. Seeing no one, public address is now closed. Thank you all. The next item on our agenda is the personnel report. I need a motion to approve the personnel report.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. And do you want to make any comments on the personnel report?
I would like to. By the board's actions this evening, you have approved the selection of Dr. Lois Graham for the position of Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum and Instruction. You have also approved the appointment of Celeste Parker as the new office manager, deputy clerk for my office. Celeste is not with us this evening, but Lois is, and I'd like to ask her if she would please stand. Both of these positions will be effective July 1, 2013, and I am indeed pleased to welcome Lois to this new position and to have Celeste join my office on July 1st. Prior to the actions that you took this evening, you also approved 2 previous leadership appointments, and tonight, for the first time, we have our new Director of Secondary Schools with us, Jennifer Weaver. Jennifer, if you'd stand. Welcome, Jennifer. Jennifer joins us from Page County. And also, I introduced before, but I'm going to ask him if he would please stand again this evening. Dr. John Staten is here as the new Assistant Superintendent for Operations. Thank you, John. And so, nobody else can retire, resign, leave, have an accident, or anything else. I'm over this interview stuff, okay? Enough. I think we have some great new talent that will be joining our organization, and I look forward to working with each of you.
Thank you. And with that, all those in favor signify by stating aye. Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries. Personnel report is approved. Next item on our agenda is the financial reports. First item is payment of the bills. I need a motion to pay the bills, please.
Move we pay the bills.
Second.
Any discussion on the bills? All those in favor signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Bills are paid. Next item is the financial summary report. I need a motion for approval.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Summary report is approved. And the next item on our agenda is the superintendent's reports, recommendations, and announcements. Ms. Blackburn.
First item this evening is the title funding application, and you have seen this before. It's Title I, Part A, Title II-A, Title III-A, Part A for funding applications, and these are being presented to you this evening for your approval.
Need a motion for approval?
So moved.
And we can open it up for discussion?
Hang on just for a second. Anyone else had discussion? Go ahead. There's something I wanted to look at.
I'm very delighted that we are continuing this program. Hopefully it works.
The allocations are expected to be somewhat smaller than the previous year due to the impacts of sequestration.
Do you know about how much it will be affecting us?
It's about total between the IDEA budget and the Title I budget, it's pretty close to $450,000. Preliminary estimates, they may go down when we get the final allocations. The Title I is about $250,000.
Would you, if I think better, we think of it, when we get the final numbers, will you bring it to
Yes,
us?
we will certainly share that with you.
Thank you very much. It's terrible.
There was a, on page 20, you don't need to bring this up, but when the audience gets a chance to look at this, page 20 was eligible attendance areas indicated, total number of children residing in attendance areas, and it had low-income families. And I want to make a note that Shawsville Middle School has 63.9% low-income families. East Montgomery is right behind it, and so on. If you haven't looked at that, take a look at that. It's startling. It goes, it lists all the schools and the number of low-income families. And my question would be, kind of a redundant question, I hope that these schools that are in the top 4 or 5 are getting the assistance that they need to help with the education of these students, because these students are coming to school with a large handicap to begin with.
Any further discussion? I apologize.
No, everyone knows where I stand on this thing.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Next item is your textbook adoption for math and for music. You also saw this information at your previous agenda, and it's presented this evening for your approval.
So moved.
Second.
It's now open for discussion. Any questions?
These were the math programs that are being, there's devices being used in these classes.
The instructional materials that are selected have software applications
Good.
that support the written text as well.
So we're headed in the right direction as far as the use of devices.
Yes.
Thank you.
And I just want to say I'm very proud of our music program in this community, and I hope we will always support and continue to offer the programs we do to our young people.
Well, I hope we continue to expand it. This is a start, but we
Expand
need,
it. Right.
we need
I'd love to
expand
see a
it.
string program myself.
We need to expand.
Orchestras in the high school. So, yeah.
Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Textbook adoption is approved.
Our next item this evening is the principal and assistant principal evaluation handbook. The handbook that's been developed for principal and assistant principal evaluation has comparable components to that you approved previously for our teacher evaluation system. At the previous introduction of this handbook, there was a request by some board members to rearrange some of the content, and that has been done. Otherwise, the evaluation handbook is as you saw it in the previous, at the previous board meeting. It's presented this evening for your approval.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. It's now open for discussion. Board members, any comments, questions on the handbook?
One comment. The performance standard descriptions, that's quite similar to the superintendent's standards and descriptions. I think we're tailoring from the top down, we're tailoring all of these evaluations in the same manner, and I think that's a very good thing. Consistency in the evaluation system.
They are very similar, actually, the teacher, the principal, and then the superintendent,
Right,
the new
right.
proposed superintendent's
Right,
evaluation.
I think that's great.
Driven by legislative requirements to some extent, a large extent.
Is there professional development offered on how to complete the forms and look at, go through the process?
We are providing professional development, yes, to our folks. We provided professional development to the principals last year as they worked with the teacher evaluation system this year. We will provide professional development to Dr. Graham and to Ms. Weaver, because they do the evaluations for most of our building principals, and likewise we'll provide support for our principals as they evaluate the APs at their building sites.
Do we believe that this is a more efficient evaluation process?
Well, I don't think we have the experience with it yet to be able to make that assessment, because we've only used it 1 year with our teachers. And, but I have to tell you, you had a pretty intense evaluation form for administrators prior to this one. So I think it's going to be different, but we don't have an experience with it yet to be able to assess.
A good answer. Okay.
Thank you.
The reason I asked the question is because this is being kind of mandated down from the
Yes,
state.
it is.
Right,
Okay.
right.
And a lot of things that are mandated down from the state are not necessarily more efficient. So I just wanted to keep monitoring that. This is for action. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Your handbook is approved.
Our next item this evening is to ask the board's support and to hopefully take action on this to reduce the school zone speed limits at Gilbert Lincoln, Harding, and Margaret Beeks Elementary School. These schools developed in cooperation with the town of Blacksburg travel plans that support the concept of safe routes to schools programs, and it tries to increase the safety and the number of children walking or biking to school in those neighborhoods. So we are being asked at this point to support through resolution that the speed zone in these school zones be reduced from the current 25 miles per hour to 15 miles per hour within the time periods when students are arriving or leaving school.
I move the motion.
We have a motion?
Second.
Got a second? It's now open for discussion. I have a question. It says signs. Are these going to be the new flashing signs that if you're speeding and it starts what?
They are electronic
they're
signs,
gonna
I
be the new
believe. Is that correct, Dan? I've not seen them, but I know Dan has. Yeah.
So they're just the ones that are flashing. They're not the ones that I've seen in the town that tell you to slow down if you're going too fast? Okay. I like the ones that tell me to slow down. I mean, not that say to slow down.
Yeah, and I like the flashing ones too.
Okay.
I mean, well, but that, in all seriousness, though, I think that gets your attention much better than, I think people have become, the traditional flashing sign, people, some pay attention to it, some don't. The majority don't, I would think. And that the new sign is definitely get your attention, and that's the reason I asked the question. I'm a proponent of the new signs that I see flying around, and I'm appreciative to the town of Christiansburg for putting those in.
I noticed in there's a resolution, I
Yes.
believe. Who pays for these signs?
The town paid for the signs,
Oh.
yes.
Yeah, right on.
Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Next item is a resolution expanding the definition of prohibited discrimination in state government employment. And at the board's meeting on June 2nd, you requested the opportunity to support a resolution similar to the one approved by the Board of Supervisors that would support an expanded definition of prohibited discrimination in employment. The Senate bill that was first directed to in this resolution from the Board of Supervisors did not come out of committee, but we have created a comparable resolution stating your support for the position of that bill, and it's here tonight for your consideration. I have presented it for action since you had discussion about it at the previous meeting.
And I move that we accept this resolution. And I believe there's an amendment coming up.
Second.
Not to this one, to ours.
So what do we have here? We've got.
Oh,
two
this is
things.
employment.
This is for the
Okay,
resolution.
this is, okay,
This is the one going to
okay.
the state.
And then you've got the other one. This is for the state.
I see.
The
I'm
other
ahead of
one is
myself.
coming up. So we have a motion. Did I hear a second? I'm sorry.
Second.
Did you second? Okay, sorry, Ms. Foster. So it's open for discussion. Any discussion? Hearing no discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Resolution will be signed. Next item on the agenda.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is Policy 5-1.1, Equal Employment Opportunity. And this policy proposes the amendments that are comparable to the resolution that you just passed. The policy is being presented to provide more inclusive language for our employment selection process. And the policy is 5-1.1, and it's the items that have been changed are the blue items on your board doc attachment.
This indicates this is for information. Can we do more than that tonight?
Yeah, at the board's pleasure, we can change it to action. And I would just put that in your motion when you make your motion, if you want to make, huh?
You need to move to waive the second reading.
Yeah. Did you hear
So
that?
we do that first?
No, you
No.
can do it as part of one
One
action.
mo-
You would move, we're asking you
Yeah.
to do it actually later in this meeting. So you'll
So I would make a,
waive the second reading and approve the policy.
I would make a motion, so moved.
Second, yes.
Give me just a moment, please. We didn't have that back in the board docs.
There's a second.
I-
Mhm. Phil,
Second, yeah.
let us know when you're ready.
Yes, sir.
While he's doing that, any discussion? We do have the motion and second. Any discussion on what is proposed?
Yeah, first I want to thank the speakers tonight. I thought that was very meaningful and very powerful.
My question is, where we're now saying discrimination in employment against any person on the basis of race, color, religion, national origin, and we're putting in sexual orientation, is that assumed that that includes lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender?
Mr. King?
My assumption is that it would be, and if not, I think we need to be more specific.
I'll give you a lawyerly answer. We don't know.
We don't know.
We don't know because the federal law, as the speakers have indicated, right now does not provide a definition of sexual orientation. So you're going beyond what federal law requires and what state law requires, and this is a new provision. You will be entitled to interpret your policy as you see fit. But as of right now, there is no federal definition or state definition that could be applied to provide an answer to your question.
So we could,
What we did was what we thought we heard last week, which was to write a policy based on the Board of Supervisors resolution, and that's what we did.
So,
it could be amended to put a parentheses after sexual orientation to include lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender.
It is your policy.
Yes.
So I move that we do that.
Wait a minute, you can't,
yeah, hold
you
on.
have to.
Add amendment, yeah.
Well,
What?
we haven't passed the,
No, I thought we could amend it.
Well, why don't you continue to do your discussion, and then once you
Okay.
do the discussion, then you can do the amendment after the discussion
Okay.
point. Okay?
Yeah.
So I'm sorry, Mr. King, but my question, so it was a largely answer to our question. The way that this is written would be interpreted that it would encompass all right now because there is no federal or state.
No, right now, there is nothing to apply, so you would have to provide a definition as you interpreted it moving forward.
Okay.
Exactly.
So
I mean,
we
I
need
think
to
that
be-
there are common sense usages that could be applied, but right now, in the absence of a definition, you all would be the arbiters of what your policy means.
So in the absence of that, we would need to be more specific. But since it's our policy, if we
Right.
want to be more specific, we should state that.
You certainly may.
Okay.
but I don't think we need to take out sexual orientation. We just need to add
In parentheses, yeah,
to it.
exactly.
I believe you heard speakers that believe that those terms have different meanings.
Right.
And so
Right.
if you want to import those meanings, again, it's your policy, you may do with it as you wish.
Right, so, yeah, that's why I'm saying we add,
Just,
You may add whatever you think you need to add to clarify it.
The terminology that was used by some of our speakers this evening was gender identity.
Correct.
That's another option.
sexual orientation and gender identity.
okay.
Well,
I would like to,
why could you not
Move
just
that.
blanket as if I heard one of the speakers say, equal opportunity to everyone with
Well,
no-
and this is where I have to step in. The federal law requires that we have the statement as it's written before you amend it tonight. In fact, several years ago, as you know, you have grievance policies, you have the EEOC statement policy, which is the one we're looking at right now. We have student policies that relate to discrimination and harassment. And we tried simply to make things more efficient to include this statement in only one of those. And when we were audited by the states interpreting the federal law, they required us to rehearse that language, repeat that language in each of the other policies, even though we said for the definition, go look at that policy. So I'm not trying to be argumentative, but the feds have told us what has to be in this policy. And by way of example, and I don't mean to pick a fight or be ugly, but if we simply said, thou shalt not discriminate for any reason except what people do at the job, we would not be able to discriminate for people who commit crimes. And clearly that would contravene a state statute that says we have to. So that, I would be careful about how we go down this road. One thing, you all have acted very promptly in response to a request. It might not be a bad idea for us to evaluate this for one more meeting and bring it back with language that we can all agree on. Right now, I did not even know this was coming up until tonight, frankly. So I have not even had an opportunity to evaluate what language would be defensible to meet the needs that the board is asking be included in the policy.
I agree with that.
I'm not trying to derail anything. I'm just trying to say these are legitimate questions to make sure that the policy reflects what you want. We ought to make sure we know what the language is. That's what I would recommend.
Are you familiar with other school districts that made these type of changes?
When this request was made following last meeting, we checked very quickly and we found one other Northern Virginia school district that had language similar to what we have included in what we proposed tonight. I don't recall I'm not saying it doesn't. I simply do not recall whether it also included gender identity. It did include sexual orientation.
Well,
I don't know why we can't just include it, and I don't understand that. Just do it.
well, I mean, we have to be specific. It's policy. I think
Right.
we need to be prudent in following the right policies and procedures instead of just doing it. Okay, and I think that's what the guidance of our attorney is saying, is that
I mean, I hear an absolute, not even a consensus, but a unanimous vote that you want the change. All I'm asking for is the opportunity to make sure we get words that would be enforceable if someone would make a claim beyond here. Realize that where this will be affected is if someone complains to the EEOC and otherwise. Right now, the EEOC probably doesn't have the authority to enforce a sexual orientation provision in a policy. You could. You all could decide that we're not going to do that, and if you found that the administration did discriminate on those bases, an employee could get relief to you.
Right.
Right now, as the law stands, they could not get relief beyond you.
Understood. So you would like us to hold off for another meeting so that you could review and,
I just would now like to do a little more research to answer the chair's question. Is there any other district that has looked at that language and maybe even speak with the MCEA reps to make sure that their request is being honored in what you put in your policy?
and very honestly, it would be awesome if we were in the forefront of this. I'm not all that concerned about what other school districts are doing. I would like to do what is right for all the children made in God's image, you know?
Well,
And I just feel strongly that way.
there's another step to this too, and I'm agreeing with you. I want to get it done. I want to get it done right. I don't want to have to
Right.
have it come back. Like right now, if we accept this the way it is, it's going to come back to us. If we don't make
if we don't define what's
Right.
sexual.
Right.
right, exactly.
Right.
But I'm also thinking that each school should have this in their handbook.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what we state here should be put, we want to make sure that it's
Right.
correct and that it filters down into the schools and any other area that we need this. So I think you're probably correct. I'm going to take a step back and say, I want to make sure that I'm doing this right. So if I made a motion, I'd like to withdraw that motion.
I would just like to comment that timing is a little bit problematic. So if the board is not going to act on it this evening, and I'm certainly not, asking you to hurry, I would like for you to know that it will not be in the printed matter in all likelihood for the fall 2013 literature distribution. However, it can be posted on the web and it can clearly be identified that changes have been made to the policy at a later point in time, but we have to go ahead and publish the written documents that are going to be distributed in the fall in order to get them done.
Mr.
Well,
King, you had reviewed the policy that we had before us, is that correct?
I did.
You had already reviewed this one and you were okay with it. Can I make a motion to approve the policy as it is now? And then if we decide we want to change it at a future meeting, we can do that. We can change that in the online material. So if we need to define things better, we can do that. But at least this is a step in the right direction by approving the policy.
This may be nothing more than lukewarm assurance, but I want to repeat what I said last time. And that is that any time that I have received a phone call from the administration of this district and any other that I represent, whether they have a policy that looks like this or not, if there's an allegation that someone has been harassed for any of these reasons, student or employee, I ask them to investigate it and enforce the policy. So I just want to send the signal that I think, although we don't have a direct statement, and I understand the reason why that's being requested, and don't necessarily disagree that that's what should be in the policy. Right now, federal and state law do not require that, but I think as a practice and a practical matter, the superintendent, the HR department, and the student services people and I are already operating this way. Now, that's very different than maybe a cultural piece down at the school level.
So let me make sure I understand Ms. Foster's motion, proposed motion. You want to go ahead and approve this as it's written tonight, so it will be in the printed matter. Because if we don't approve it tonight as it's written, then what's highlighted in blue will not be printed. Is that correct?
That is correct.
That's correct. Yes.
I'm sorry?
Yeah,
Is that the, okay, and
Yeah.
that's gonna be my next.
But-
so-
Well,
But Joe withdrew his motion.
but we,
No, we did not vote, we did
Yeah.
not get to the
Okay.
point.
what I don't want is, I don't want something put in the handbook that's not our feelings.
exactly. I agree.
And the motion, the way it is right now, is not our feelings, obviously. So for us to vote on this and then have it put in the handbooks is inappropriate, I feel, because it's not what we're saying.
So should we amend your motion to include gender identity?
I think we should.
I do
I really
too.
think we should.
It's not that, it's very obvious to me. That's what we need to include.
Mhm.
Sexual orientation, comma, gender identity. And I move that, to amend the motion.
And transgender should be added.
Okay, well, this is where I'm getting
Somewhere
a
in
little bit confused to what you're trying to amend to.
What transgender
Okay,
is.
you need to be
Gender.
more specific. Okay, what are your emotion is to amend, is amending what? Okay, help me understand what you're putting in here.
Amend the original motion to include gender identity, which in my understanding includes transgender. So, Joe, I don't think the transgender would be necessary. It would just be adding gender identity after sexual orientation, comma. Yeah.
I like it the way the way it is, so.
But after hearing speakers tonight, I think to be totally inclusive, I think it's important to add gender identity. That's why I'm amending. What I'm amending.
But what I'm hearing from our attorney is he needs some more time to go back and read this and make sure we're doing the right thing. And I don't want to have to come back and have to change it again and take something back out of it. So I understand what you're trying to do, Ms. Albritton, and I appreciate that. And I don't it's not that I disagree with what you're trying to do. I just think he's given us advice that he needs to go back and review it. So if you make that motion, then I'm going to vote no for that particular reason,
Well,
not because I disagree
Her
with what you're
motion
trying
is yet
to
to
do.
be seconded.
Well, let me ask a question, this may be out of line, but I'm going to ask anyway. Matt, is he allowed to come up to the podium and straighten this out? Because I really think that that'd be a great deal of help if you
We're
could do
not
that.
dealing with his motion.
No, not
Of
really.
course.
He's not allowed to do that.
No.
Okay, it's our policy. It's
Yeah.
our discussion.
I'm not asking for
Okay.
his input in our policy. I'm asking for what he had said before, if he could repeat just what he had said. Can we do that?
You have
When
the
he's-
supervisor's resolution in your board docs. Were you asking that he repeat his public address?
Yes, no, just parts of his public address that address this issue. Can we do that?
In my opinion, if we're setting a policy, it's what we want, not what we've been asked to do.
Well,
So
this
I
is-
think we need to decide what works for us as a school system.
Yeah,
No
exactly.
disrespect to anyone, but if you start doing that kind of stuff, then someone that wants you to change it for someone who enjoys wearing red shoes, I mean, you have to be careful
agree.
with what you're doing there, okay?
I agree.
Folks,
But that didn't answer my question. Is he allowed to come up and,
no, it is our policy. We're
Okay.
the ones responsible for putting this together. We've got the public's input. We can translate the public's input into what we want it to be. Okay, we have been advised by our attorney that he would like to be able to take this policy back, research it, be able to add to it. I think he has heard what we would like to add to the policy. I also think we've heard from a board member that would like to make sure that what we have before us, while it may not be perfect, it may have to come back to us. At least if we were to vote on what is brought before us, it would be a one step in the right direction, making sure that the word gets out and it's published and it gets to the communities and to the schools that we want it to. It's better than what's written out there now. Okay, that's what I've heard, the 2 points of the discussion.
Well, you've heard a third point too, that 2 board members would like something added to this.
Right, and that's what I'm suggesting, that we tell the attorney what we would like to have added to it so that we can approve it the second reading.
Well, do we need to put this in print the old way if we don't do anything tonight? Or
If we
just-
don't approve anything tonight, what is in blue in front of us will not be printed. It will be the old policy. If we were to waive the second reading and approve what is written as it is tonight, then what is in blue would be distributed throughout the division. Then, when we have input from the attorney, we can expand the definition of sexual orientation to add what we would like to add to it at a later date. It's just revising the policy.
But I'd like to ask the attorney, I mean, what is the difficulty of adding gender identity to sexual orientation? I mean, none of it's in the state or the national, but we're going to put.
It's all written. I'll answer it the same way I did before. It's your policy. If you direct me to add that language, I will add that language. What I'm saying is the other language that's already in your policy tracks federal law, and there are definitions attached to those. We all probably do understand what gender identity and transgendered means, but I just want to make sure that we capture the spirit of everything you want. If you direct me to do it now, I will do it now.
Well, we need to go back to, your motion did not receive a second, so therefore your motion is failed. Okay?
Right.
So where are we? Are we back to the original motion now? Trying to get our rules of order in line here. Okay, then we'll move on.
And there was no second to my transgender
There
identity
was no second.
amendment, correct?
That's correct.
Correct. I didn't hear one.
There
Joe,
wasn't
did
one.
you do it?
Pardon me?
Did you second my amendment for transgender identity or not?
If I didn't, I will now.
Okay, now we have a motion and we have a second.
Discussion.
Any further discussion on Mrs. Albritton's motion?
Just a restatement that I will be voting against it, not because I don't believe it's the right thing to do, but because I think we have a policy in front of us that's a step in the right direction. And until Mr. King's had an opportunity to do what he needs to do, I won't support it.
Pause
And
for a moment. Ms.
in rebuttal to that, what you're saying is it makes no difference. You will vote for the previous policy.
The one
Yeah.
that's before us.
Right.
Yes.
You
I
will vote for that, which we're going to change anyway.
Right, but that will allow
So-
Mr. King to do what he needs to do.
But the point is that if it is printed, then the transgender statement will be in there. And I think that's important that at least that gets in there so students, parents can see it.
Any further discussion on Mrs. Albritton's motion? Can you reread her motion, please?
So we're voting on the amendment
Yeah.
to include the term gender identity.
Transgender.
You want the term transgender specifically?
Transgender.
I apologize.
Is that right? Gender identity. I'm sorry, gender identity. Sorry. Gender.
Definitely gender.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So to amend the motion to include the term gender identity with sexual orientation in policy 5-1.1 equal employment opportunity. This is just the amendment, then we will vote again on the amended motion.
Any further discussion on Mrs. Albritton's motion?
I just have a question on the pregnancy, childbirth, or related medical condition. Why does it say related medical condition to childbirth opposed to just medical condition? So, I mean, that's kind of my point to, if you start,
Ms. Bond, all we did was track the language from the resolution that the Board of Supervisors approved because that's what you all asked us to do. There's already a
Just
Pregnancy
curious.
Discrimination Act in this country that prevents you from discriminating against women for pregnancy. So you know,
Well,
we just tracked the language that was in the resolution from the last meeting.
I was just curious.
You good? Okay, since it's policy, I'm going to ask for roll call.
Ms. Albrecht?
Aye.
Ms. Vaughn?
No.
Ms. Foster?
No.
Mr. Ivers?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
No.
Motion fails.
Now we're back to the other motion.
Yes. I need just a moment to get the computer straight. Okay, I'm now ready for us to vote on the original motion, which is to waive the second reading of policy 5-1.1, equal employment opportunity, and approve the revised policy as presented, so as it is in order.
Which would include items that are in blue.
Yes.
Okay. Is there any further discussion on that? I'll ask for roll call on that.
Ms. Albrecht?
No.
Ms. Vaughn?
Yes.
Ms. Foster?
Yes.
Mr. Ivers?
No.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay. Next item for this evening is the legislative policy update. And the legislative policy updates that are before you were driven by actions of the Virginia General Assembly. And they were reviewed with you at the previous meeting as information. They're presented this evening for your consideration for action.
Need a motion for approval.
So moved.
Need a second?
Second.
We got a second. Discussion.
So many of these are not funded by the state, yet they're mandated. Do we have to approve these? Is that what it's about?
I'll let Mr. King address that.
Ms. Albrecht, members of the board, if you'll look at the manner in which we prepared the grid that appears in your table of, it looks like a table of contents in your agenda. For each section, you'll see, like, if you look at it's page 10 on my agenda, in subsection 2, community relations. You'll see proposed policy changes in one grid, and then regulation practice changes that are presented as information only. The ones that are proposed policy changes are required by law for policy statements. Where we think there might be a practice change, we've included that only for information or as a regulation. But yes, the proposed policy changes that we're recommending to you are required by state law.
Any further discussion on the policy changes?
And so if we don't vote for, you know, if we ever voted it down, what would that mean? That we're just not going along with the state?
Still have to do what the state requires you to do.
This is a state requirement, no matter what, so, yeah.
Hearing no further discussion, since again, this is policy, I'm going to ask for roll call.
Ms. Albrecht?
Abstain.
Ms. Vaughn?
Yes.
Ms. Foster?
Yes.
Mr. Ivers?
No.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Motion carries.
And I'll change mine to a no. I'm really upset about the state mandates and not funding.
I can't do that.
Okay.
They're approved.
Yes,
Yeah,
the
it's
motion
a-
carries.
motion carries.
I was unable to, once it's final, I can't change an abstention to an opposition.
Thank you.
Yes.
Next item is H. It's policy 3-3.2. It is a modification or improvement request for school board facilities policy. It is one that I have brought to the board for your consideration because of some of the discussions we've had over the last year. Based on the discussion and review by the board at the last meeting, I added to the policy item number 3, which says The superintendent shall keep the school board informed of all building alterations and site improvement regardless of the cost threshold.
So
Other than that, the policy remains as it was presented to you at the previous meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion on the policy?
Yeah, I'm going to vote no for this because I have great confidence in the superintendent, and I think $50,000 is absolutely ridiculous that every time that amount is exceeded, she has to come back and I guess get our approval first. I think that's ridiculous. It verges on micromanaging.
And I hear your concern, Mr. Ivers, but with the budget situation the way it is, I'm going to vote for it.
Any further discussion on the policy? I appreciate you making the changes to the policy after our last conversation. Thank you for doing that. Hearing no further discussion, and again, since this is policy, I will ask for roll call.
Ms. Albrecht?
Aye.
Ms. Vaughn?
Yes.
Ms. Foster?
Yes.
Mr. Ivers?
No.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Next item is another policy modification. It is a policy on concussions. It is 7-4.3, and it's the division's policy on how students are treated when they sustain a head injury. We are asking that the board consider waiving the second reading of this policy and approve it so that it will be in place for fall sports to begin in August. It tracks fully with the requirements of the Virginia General Assembly. It has added some language based on our required yearly meeting of our committee in Montgomery County, suggested improvements to the policy.
Motion to waive second reading and approve.
Second.
It's now open for discussion. Coaches are going to receive training. Everybody that coaches a child is going to receive this type of training.
Absolutely. As we started, I believe it was last year, the first mandatory, or maybe it was year before last, but we're doing it just exactly like we've been doing in the past.
Okay. Are we at any risk here? I mean, well, I'm looking at Mr. King, but I mean, I'm, as everyone knows, I'm on the athletic field and witnessed several concussions this past fall. You know, if we don't take the proper protocols and everybody understands where we're at, or what risk is the division at?
Presume you're asking what legal risk.
Yes.
Clearly, you are insured. Participants who participate in collision sports and otherwise, I believe, also are required to have their own insurance or to sign documentation acknowledging the risks attendant. And this policy is what's required by state law. And as the superintendent advised, I believe it was 3 years ago when the law was first enacted, we worked closely with the administration at the time to get the input from the local medical community that they can rehearse to you much better than I to finalize this policy. So I think we've limited the risk as well as we can. Certainly, the attention that's being brought to bear on concussion injuries generally is heightened across the United States from pro sports on down.
Okay. Any further discussion? And again, since this is policy and motion is to waive the second reading and approve this evening, I'll ask for roll call.
Ms. Albrecht?
Aye.
Ms. Vaughn?
Yes.
Ms. Foster?
Yes.
Mr. Ivers?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Our next item is 2012-13 fiscal year end close. And essentially, we're asking that the board take action this evening to authorize the superintendent to review and approve payment of the final June invoices for fiscal year 12-13 school operating and school nutrition appropriated budgets. As you know, the board will not convene in regular session during the month of July.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
And we thank you and your staff for an incredible job.
Thank you.
Incredible.
Next item.
Just to comment, we gave you a little bit of information last week about the status of the year-end budget, and we are continuing to work on closing out the year-end budget, and can't really give you any additional information this evening because we are running payrolls for June, July, and August still, and do not have the good figures yet for those. We do know that we'll have some of the $400,000 from the Board of Supervisors still in carryover because the purchases are still underway. There's a little bit of loss in sales tax, but as I know more, I will provide you information through the board update about the ending fund balance, but it's expected to be very small.
Mhm.
Well, that's why we have a budget.
Exactly. So, next, I want to thank these gentlemen for being so patient while we went through all the other things that we had on the agenda this evening. I asked Mr. Baronato if he would join us at the podium to do our monthly update on facilities.
Good evening. Same format as last time. Some of our projects, the top one, mobile unit, the last one we moved from Kips to Falling Branch. It's all complete except for the power line. That was supposed to happen today. The weather delayed it. We're hoping by the end of the week that'll be in and that will be finished. Replacing the roofs, the technology building, and one of the roofs at Christiansburg High School. Last time I said we were rebidding those. We rebid them. We reduced the price and the bids that came back. It's interesting, the same two bidders, but we were successful, got it within budget. They start this week. That was this morning. This afternoon, I was told as I was leaving for the meeting that the contractor, because of the weather this week, they want to start on Monday. And it looks like they may start on both at the same time with two different crews. So those will go this summer, and they're on their way. The wood floor at New Blacksburg Middle School, that's also in process. We hope that it will be completed by the end of the month. We will refinish the gym floor at CHS this summer. It's one of the gyms, well, the gym that probably gets the most action from everybody in the county. And that'll be done this summer. Summer moves are ongoing. We have moved out of Auburn High School, and we're moving out of Blacksburg High School there on Price's Fork Road as we speak. And we've also moved out of all the mobile units at Old CMS, where Blacksburg Middle School has been, and those, we're going to turn those back over to the lessor at the end of this month. And we also, in this move thing, we're removing the high school modifications that we made to Blacksburg Middle School a couple years ago to turn some of the rooms into high schools to support high school programs, and those modifications have now been removed. Some booster projects. The picture there is the one from the Harding Avenue Picnic Shelter. It's all but complete, except for some final details. And it's a picnic shelter. It's also an outdoor classroom. It's quite a nice structure if you drive by and see it. Ms. Blackburn talked at our last meeting about the rubberized track surface for BHS, and we're just now starting to get the details of that project in, and we'll be reviewing that. And I'm sure with our new policy that you approved, we'll be bringing that to you for review. And
How many lanes is that track going to be?
it has 6 lanes. These are the former school properties that the county is working on. We have 3 updates. Former Blacksburg Middle School, you've seen in the paper and may have heard the rezoning application was withdrawn by the developer, but discussions will continue, and the county hopes that that will then get back on the table. Former Ellison Lafayette July the 12th, the county's going to put that property up for auction along with some other properties that they have. So sometime mid-July, we should know the results of that one. Former Prices Fork Elementary School, last time we reported that they put out an RFP for proposals for that property. They received one proposal, and the county is currently in negotiation on that proposal. No update on the other 3 schools. Capital maintenance projects that you approved, the top 5 there for use of the $400,000. Door hardware security improvements, we're heavily planning, but we also are starting that project. We're going to start at Falling Branch, and by the fall, we should have all the schools done the door hardware on all the exterior doors so they can't be chained, locked. State Security Grant Matching Fund, that's about to come. Some guidance on that, and our grant person, Laura, will be working on that one when the guidance comes out. I think very soon it's supposed to come out.
21st.
The wall at Christiansburg High School, that's complete except for the final inspection on that, which we expect to be done next Monday. And the ladder safety cages at the 3 schools, that has been awarded, and they're being fabricated, and they'll soon be put up. Hopefully within the next month, those will be completed as well. This week, I guess it was yesterday or Friday, we awarded the replacing the auditorium seats at Christiansburg High School, and those have a contract completion date of September 30th. So we hope to get them in before then, but it was pretty late in the season to get that out, and we were able to get a commitment for the 30th of September.
And how much did they come in?
The bid, the construction portion, came in at $157,000.
That doesn't include the design, so the design
right.
work will add cost.
Right.
We're talking about the auditorium seats,
Yes,
right?
Yes.
that's correct.
And when they replace those seats, will there be any work done to the floors or anything? Since you have the seats out.
Right. Well, that's sealed concrete there. That'd be a
Okay.
great opportunity to clean that and reseal it,
Right.
which we do. Also related to the seats, building code requires new lighting of the aisles. And there's some electrical work besides just the replacement of the seats that's in that price.
Okay, all right, thank you.
That's it.
Let me go back to the track. It's a 6-lane rubberized track at Blacksburg High School.
Right.
I thought the Booster Club was involved in that somehow.
That is the booster project, is to put the rubber on it. The schools, Blacksburg High School and the boosters are going to put a rubber surface on the asphalt track that's being constructed under our PPA project.
And it's no thought of expanding it to 8 lanes.
Not at the moment, no, sir. It's just,
When you say not at the moment, that can be done down the road?
yes.
Okay.
But right now, the boosters and the school want to fund just the rubberized surface on the 6 lanes.
On page 1, the roof replacements on the technology building, is that going to disrupt? I mean, that's work that occurs. People are in there full time throughout the summer.
Right there, well, throughout the year, we have to do it sometime.
Right,
Yeah.
I understand that, but are we going to make sure that we don't displace the folks we're taking?
That's my biggest concern about the weather and how it's been so rainy. And we just are going to work very closely with the contractors to mitigate and avoid any problems, get it closed up at the end of the day, and keep a good eye on the forecast and radar.
Okay. So underneath, are we I guess there's being some precautions taken not to?
Yeah, we've planned, in fact, I was speaking with David Hodge yesterday about that. We're going to have some poly stage. We're not going to cover the computers and servers because that can cause another problem with the heat. And so, but we're going to be ready for that. Okay. It is a sensitive area for sure. There's no way around it.
And then the replace of the wood floor in the BMS auxiliary gym, was insurance going to help?
Insurance has paid for the whole thing.
Okay, so our insurance company will pay for that. Okay.
Sir. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Dan.
Any further questions for Dean?
And last but not least, Bob Kaler, our VHS Skanska on-site person, is going to do our capital projects update this evening. Welcome, Bob.
Thank you. Chairman Jones, Superintendent Blackburn, and board members, glad to be here tonight. Sorry it's so late, but we'll move through it.
For us, it's early.
So we'll keep our normal format that we've had in our last few updates, and then I'll summarize at the end. And so just looking at some photos so you can kind of track the construction progress. You can see the auxiliary gym at the Auburn High School on the left and the floor work that's going on. Most of the wood floor is down, and now they've started actually putting the finish on the floor there. And you can see there's some dehumidifiers in there to help dial in the temperature and humidity, so we're working at optimum conditions there. On the right-hand side is a typical classroom on the second floor of the academic area, so you can see how that's shaping up. The contractor at the Auburn High School project has actually started cleaning up on the second floor of the academic area, so they're kind of working their way down. They still have some punch lists and minor odds and ends to do on that floor, but they needed to get the cleaning started. Continuing at the high school, you get a view of the auditorium on the left. Currently, all the lifts are out of the auditorium, and the floor is being cleaned and prepared for sealing. And then after that, the seats will be delivered, and same kind of process that Mr. Baronato just described on the maintenance project. And then at the high school, you can see the public entrance to the front of the high school and some of the site work taking shape with some of the curb and gutter that's been installed, and some of the stone that's there awaiting asphalt. And on the asphalt, they have to work their way out of the building and obviously work around the weather that has been going on for the last couple of weeks. So that's some shots of the progress. Kind of ongoing, upcoming work that they're tracking is continuing the building systems. The HVAC system is up and running, but we have to get that system dialed in, and the contractor is working on that with their controls contractors. Getting the seats and the lockers installed, and then continuing with the rest of the building. I showed you a great photo of the classrooms, but there's continuing electrical devices and so forth, in some of the shop areas, further back as they work their way out. Moving on to the Blacksburg High School. Timeline. This was the same timeline we showed you last update, and that continues to hold true. Target to start the punch list on July the 5th, probably be done in phases, and still on schedule to be able to occupy on July 22nd with owner furniture move-in shortly thereafter. I will note that some items are going to start being moved in. Appliances, we have some appliance orders that Montgomery County has put out for bid, and those appliances will be delivered starting later this week and next week. But the bulk of the furniture will come, starting in end of July. Blacksburg High School. On the left-hand side, that's the graphic design classroom. Floor's been waxed. The punch list was done in there. Architectural punch list was done in there last week, and the contractors are starting to work on that punch list in that room. On the right-hand side is the gym. That is the cleaning of the floor prior to the delivery of the wood. The wood has started to be delivered and acclimate in the high school gym. The HVAC system is up and running to maintain the conditions there. So that photo's a little bit dated, but that the gym is starting to move along with the wood floor. On the exterior, this is a photo on the left of the art rooms where that storefront glass is, and the sidewalk work that's going on. And there's a significant amount of sidewalk work that the site work contractor has been able to fit in, between the rainstorms. This sidewalk has been poured and is in place. And they were able to actually get a little bit of site work concrete done this morning before the rain hit. On the right-hand side is kind of an overall view taken from the where the tennis courts will be. You can see one of the light pole bases for the tennis courts there. And then, a front view of the school. You can see in the center the last little section of exterior canopy area that's being closed in right now, kind of the storefront on the main entrance. Major work coming up at the high school is the wood floor, continuing to work on the HVAC systems and getting the controls operating correctly, and then continuing to work in the shop area, auditorium seating, and art rooms, and kind of work their way out of the building, along with the site work. We've got a fair amount of site work that the contractor needs to work there. Project timeline, essentially the same that we had presented last month. We have started some punch list work in the academic wing up on the 3rd floor, and we're doing that in phases so that we can get out ahead of the furniture delivery and try to get the contractor back in there to take care of their cleanup items before the furniture gets delivered. So we're going to knock out the 3rd and 2nd floor of that punch list a little bit ahead of this, and then the other stuff will kind of come in phases. Again, all tracking towards finishing up the classroom wing so that the county can begin to move in furniture on July 26th, and then the completion of the rest of the building along with some of the site work on August 14th, and then kind of the sprint to the finish of 2.5 weeks to get in there and get school started. So currently the contractor reports we're on track for Blacksburg High School and Auburn High School to be open and ready to go as scheduled, and we think that they'll make it. Let's see, a few other items. As Mr. Baronato mentioned, Auburn High School, the move out is essentially complete. There's maybe a couple pieces there that the contractor and Skanska and Montgomery County are working on, but the work has started at on the renovations of the existing high school to the middle school. Some abatement activities have started, and Branch and Associates is in there starting that work. Improvements to Route 8 are underway, and then in addition, relative to furniture, we also are working with technology to get smart boards and projector mounts, and those have started to be installed at both schools, at Auburn and Blacksburg High School. That concludes my update, and be glad to answer any questions the board may have.
In the Auburn school, you say owner furniture move-in. What does that mean?
That's the date that the owner is going to begin to deliver. An owner, meaning Montgomery County Schools, will be delivering the large furnishings like teacher desks, classroom student desks, all the various types of career technical education equipment that's being procured separately, with Montgomery County purchasing.
When are teachers going to be allowed to get into the buildings to set up their classrooms?
We're not ready to make that statement yet.
Okay.
We need to get just a little bit closer to having the furniture in the rooms before we make that statement.
Okay. So the high school people have pulled their belongings out of old middle school and taken it home.
Stored. Much of it is stored. We provided storage for that.
Okay.
So it'll move, just like we moved them in from
Excellent.
It'll be marked with their room. It'll sit outside the door, and they'll walk in, and it's there.
Very good.
Okay.
Well, I want to thank you. I had the opportunity to tour the two schools, I think about 2 weeks ago, I believe it was. And just
Moving
look.
along.
Huh?
Moving along, huh?
Oh, yeah. I mean, even just looking at what's happened in 2 weeks since I was there, it's amazing the amount of work. But I will tell you one thing. Both communities are going to be just so proud of these facilities when they're done. Light, it's just a bright, light, learning atmosphere in every corner that you can turn into. Colors are great. I mean, there was a lot of pain and gnashing of teeth to get here, but once we open these things up, I think we're going to be very proud of what we've accomplished and what you guys have accomplished in this short amount of time. So, publicly, I thank you at this point for all your hard work. I know it's not been easy, and I know it's probably had a lot of sleepless nights and waking up with cold sweats going, oh my God, I forgot about that. But I think at the end, when we look out and you can see Price's Fork and the beautiful mountain range and all the other stuff, it's going to be well worth it. And I was very impressed, and thank you.
I'll pass that along to the team, Chairman Jones.
Yeah, please
And,
do. I know that they probably don't get enough pats on the back for all their work. I know they're out there on Saturdays. I know they're out there on Sundays. I'd love to buy them all donuts if I could, but I can't.
Yeah.
It'd be a lot of donuts.
A lot of those.
It'd be a whole lot. I don't think Carol Lee could make that many.
I think there's a lot of vested interest in everyone that's working on the project to deliver it on time, on budget, and get there like everyone wants the project to be, and we're all striving for that. So, thank you.
Thank you, Bob. We appreciate it. And Tim, thank you also. Tim is our Auburn Projects manager, so glad to have you both this evening.
Thank you for your time. And I believe that concludes everything under your,
It certainly does.
which opens it up to now unfinished, oh gosh, excuse me, unfinished business by school board member.
No.
Any unfinished business by school board members? No unfinished business?
Just board retreat.
Next item is board retreat. And we see that the board retreat is scheduled for Tuesday, July the 9th at 5:30 in the school board office. And again, we'll continue to, the superintendent and I have scheduled a meeting to discuss the retreat in great detail. And we'll have an agenda to you here. But again, I would solicit if you have comments, questions, or topics that you feel are appropriate for the retreat, I would encourage you to send those to me and the superintendent. And were we going to do pop-up? Are we doing pop-up? Okay, that's the reason I was bringing it up.
That's what I thought we were gonna do
I
too.
thought we were going to do pop-up.
It's gonna take me 2 weeks to figure out a dish if y'all want potlucks. So you
Okay.
better tell me now.
Huh?
Oh, okay. Well, that's fine too.
Had you started planning for catering? Okay, you thought about it? Okay, well. All right, well, we'll address that offline, but, okay. And we'll let you know. Do you have a drop dead date you need to know when to put some stuff over there? I'm sorry? Okay, all right, that's great. That'll work. New business by school board members. Any new business?
Is the hiring policy, no, that's old business. Never mind.
Well, you can bring it up here. I was wondering where we were going to bring it up. I'll bring it up, or, I mean, do we, at this point, we approved it tonight, okay? But now, if we want to, under either unfinished or new business, the policy was a 5-1. At this point, is where I would recommend that the board clarify what additional things they want to add to that policy.
Exactly.
Okay?
Exactly.
And this is, I think, the most appropriate place for clarification and giving the attorney direction on what we would like to have added to that policy and brought back to us.
And my question is, since we are going to have a retreat the 9th, could we have a portion of that be a school board meeting or not?
We
To
can,
bring this up,
actually,
to bring this up.
I believe
and
that
vote.
there's a possibility we will have some business to conduct that night, short amount of business.
There is potential that we would have a 1 or 2 agenda item.
Yes, I'd like to add this one to it, yeah.
Okay,
I would just like to clarify and add gender identity.
okay,
Thank you.
all right. Is there anything else you want to add to that? I mean, I guess my question to this board is, how specific do you want to be in describing, giving a definition for sexual orientation?
Well, I think that's what we need time to look at. I do, yeah.
All right.
That's what your point
Well,
was.
they are two different things to many of our population.
Do you feel like you've got clear direction there, Mr. King? Yes. Okay, I just want to,
So we're adding that to our July 9th agenda.
it will be on the
Okay.
July 9th agenda, since
Thank
we
you.
know we're going to have some business items to address.
So if we do,
But in all likelihood, it will still be too late to be included in the printed materials for the fall of 2013. They're waiting to go to press this minute to get those policies updated, so.
okay. It is what it is.
Any other items? Are we good there?
Sure.
Any other items of new business by school board members? Hearing none, announcements and information.
I would just like to personally thank those all who are retiring in the district, and I hope that they have a really full, wonderful, fun life. Yes. In retirement, yes.
And I echo what Ms. Albritton said. Those who are still with us, a few of them, just, congratulations. Retiring today is certainly an accomplishment. And
Yes.
congratulations on that accomplishment. Go enjoy your rewards that you've
Yes.
earned. Enjoy it.
Yeah.
Play golf.
No,
Well, I
no.
know one will be.
Go sit by the lake for me.
And I would
And-
like to, again, extend a welcome to the newest
Yes,
members
that's
of
what I
our
was gonna
team.
say, too.
And we're glad to have you on board.
Yes.
Look forward to working with you. You're coming at a very exciting time into Montgomery County Public Schools with the opening of schools and our continued journey to make sure we've got facilities and a good
Wood
educational
buckets.
program. One announcement, I'd like to congratulate the Blacksburg boys soccer team on their 12th state championship.
Yes.
If you continue to read, they are ranked 3rd in the nation in certain polls, 4th in the nation in other polls. So the Blacksburg boys are certainly getting well-deserved recognition. I think that we also had a young ladies track team, relay team, that placed sixth in the national competition from Blacksburg High School. We need to congratulate those ladies, and I think that we had some other athletes also as well that performed well at the track event in Greensboro. So congratulations to those athletes and any and all athletes that performed well in our recent state championships.
And speaking of the boys soccer and Blacksburg High School, I would just like to remember an amazing gentleman, Dan Orr, who in 1979 started a soccer program in this area, never dreaming it would really go anywhere but on fields here and there. And it's grown to one of our high schools being such a champion. But thank you, Dan. May you rest in peace. God bless him.
We had the Auburn team, I think the first time baseball team, Auburn team, first
Yeah.
time qualified at the state and performed well at
Yep.
the state. So we had a lot of firsts with our athletics in Montgomery County.
Cool.
And we need to recognize the Auburn baseball team as well. Any other announcements and information?
Move we adjourn?
Well, upcoming school board meeting?
Oh, wait a minute.
Yes.
While you're doing first, we just learned this evening that in the state rodeo, we took bus rodeo, first again in the small bus, first in the transit, second in the conventional.
There you go.
All right.
Congratulations.
Super. Awesome.
You see the upcoming school board meetings? We have, we need to double check the dates there on a couple of those. And the 8th, don't think July 2nd is correct.
Brenda, I
July-
thought we fixed these.
I thought I had as well. I
Okay.
apologize for the confusion. I think in my case to go on vacation last week, I was a little confused. I thought I had fixed it and
Okay,
the changes that go through. I'll send out the revised.
okay.
email tomorrow.
All right, thank you very much. Didn't mean to, just want to make sure that they're correct. And with that, we have a motion for adjournment. I need a second.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
We're now adjourned. Thank you, all board members. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.